What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Young Rich Podcast. Today, we are back again, joined once again by my boy Seth. Say what's up to the people, Seth.
Hey, what's good, guys?
Seth has been very busy, as has I, right? He's had midterms going on, but talk about midterms, how midterms went for the people.
Good. I'm doing my master's program in medical science at Baylor, so it gets a little hefty. I had a pharmacology midterm and a microbio and an immunology midterm. They went pretty well for the most part. The immunology one was a bit difficult, but yeah, just memorizing a lot of different drugs and side effects and things like that, and then just the immune system. So it's been fun, but I'm glad those are over and I kind of have like a little brief break right now so we can get back to the podcast and the episodes and everything.
Get back to grinding. Yeah. I'm happy for you. Happy you're staying busy and, getting through it with school, as am I. Obviously, mine's not as complicated as yours. My class is a bit easier right now, but yeah. But obviously, the first thing I did want to discuss for today is Russell Wilson is officially named the starting quarterback for the Week 6 game against the who do you guys end up playing?
The
The
Jets, the New
Jets.
York
That's right,
Jets,
the New York Jets with the
Sunday night.
newly yeah. Boom. So go ahead, give me your thoughts on this happening.
So I'm kind of mad, to be honest. I'm a little frustrated. Um, Going into the season, right, we were kind of like on the Russell Wilson's going to start first off, and then Russell Wilson hurt his knee in a sledding incident, whatever. He was pushing a sled and he hurt his knee and he's out for 5 or 6 weeks. Um, Steelers fans are split in half. They don't know. They want Russell Wilson. They're like, some of them want Russell Wilson. They're like, Justin Fields isn't getting it done. Some of them are saying we're 4-2. The smart ones and the intellectual ones are saying we're 4-2. Justin Fields is working fine. They see all the holes in the team and they're kind of just like, Justin Fields deserves that spot until he has one of those horrible games, which he hasn't had yet. But in my opinion, right, I'm taking this two ways. One, I knew Russell Wilson was going to get a spot start. Somewhere he was going to get a spot start. There's no way they were going to go the whole season without seeing Russell Wilson play at least 1 or 2 games and see how he plays in the offense, because he was like the first big signing this offseason for the Steelers, right? They were kind of like, Russell Wilson's coming in. He's an established veteran quarterback. He's coming in. He's going to we're going to see how he works in this offense. Now with Justin Fields, a lot of people don't realize, right, the situation that he's in right now. You have Arthur Smith as the head coach, who's known as a run first, heavy run offensive coordinator, right? Our offensive line is now missing our first round pick, Troy Fautanu, our second round pick, Zach Frazier, who got hurt Sunday. We're missing James Daniels, who's our starting offensive guard, who is out for the season with a torn Achilles. We were missing Isaac Siamalu, who's our left guard, who was out for the first 4 games of the season, I believe. And then we have Dan Moore, who is one of the least competent offensive tackles in the NFL, and Broderick Jones, who has been starting to look like a bust as of recently. There was this clip against the Raiders where he literally just froze and Max Crosby ran around the edge. And thankfully, Justin Fields is one of the better scrambling quarterbacks in the NFL, and he took off for a first down. But it was absolutely hilarious. The clip was probably the funniest clip I've ever seen. He literally did not move out of his stance when the ball was hiked. So but so coming from a place of, just understanding the game and understanding the Steelers offense and the way they just run this team, Justin Fields has been doing great given the circumstances that he is in. With a run heavy, run first offensive coordinator, they can't get a run game going, right? They
Yeah.
finally, right, against the Raiders, finally. But before that, he did not have a run game to lean on, right? He doesn't have a run game that can open up, bring people into the box so he can throw the ball deep down the field. He's not getting those looks. The route concepts that Arthur Smith has in the playbook are not great. They're not getting people open, right? You're seeing the same routes. They're seeing the same routes that Matt Canada was throwing out there to try to get yardage, get chunk yardages. The Steelers are facing so many third and longs instead of like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, even 3rd and 7. It's always 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13. And those are, just loss of down situations where, we have a false start, or Matt Canada, or not Matt Canada. His name's not Matt Canada. It's Arthur Smith, where Arthur Smith calls a double end around toss back pass on a 2nd and 6, and it becomes a 3rd and 20 after that for some reason during the Raider game when the drive was going completely fine, and it completely killed the. I thought I was watching like a high school football game, but Justin Fields deserves the spot. And people don't realize that how broken our offensive line is, right? We have third and fourth stringers. We have guys that we had to sign off the practice squad to now be backups and or play on our offensive line. Justin Fields, if he did not have his legs, if he could not scramble, right? We would not be 4-2 right now. I hate to break it to people, but we would not have 4 wins right now if it was not for Justin Fields. Realistically, the Steelers should be 5-1, even undefeated. We lost the last play of the game to the Cowboys, right? In the Colts game, we barely lost by a touchdown. Justin Fields balled out, and we had that horrible pass interference call on Minka Fitzpatrick that the Colts scored their last touchdown of the game on. So realistically, the Steelers could well likely be 6-0 right now because of 2 plays, right? For the Steelers. But we're talking here, Russell Wilson, when he plays, the situation that the Steelers are putting him in, right? A spot start is a spot start, but they're putting him against the New York Jets defense on Sunday Night Football, right? We play the Giants next week. If you're going to spot start someone who hasn't played the entire season, who's in his mid-30s, who's coming off an injury, you do not put him against the New York Jets defense on Sunday Night Football. You put him against the New York Giants. And it's crazy that the Steelers decide now's the time to spot start Russell Wilson here after going 4-2. Justin Fields, in my opinion, he hasn't been obviously amazing, right? But like I said at the beginning of the season, Steelers fans have short fuses, right? They were spoiled by Big Ben. All of them are so entitled. They're so spoiled. They don't understand the length of time and what it takes to develop a quarterback, get him some confidence, let him throw. Another thing that I completely ignored and was completely ignorant about. The Steelers do not have a wide receiver 2. They have George Pickens. And then their wide receiver 2 is Van Jefferson, who rounds off every single one of his routes and looks like a string cheese out there, like a piece of string cheese. He literally is useless.
On the Rams, to stay with the Rams, like I thought he was going to be a good, like number 2, number 3.
And so literally we don't trade for Davante Adams, right? We're in trade talks for Mike Williams apparently, but we've been in trade talks with Brandon Ayuk and Davante Adams and everyone else, right? Cortland Sutton as well, and it never happens. This offense is so bad, and Justin Fields is literally carrying us with his legs. I saw people on Steelers Twitter talking about Justin Fields has gotten by because of his legs, and that's the only reason why we've been winning games. We need to start Russell Wilson. That's the whole point, bro. That's the whole point. Like, we've been winning games because of his legs. If you put Russell Wilson in the exact same situations that Justin Fields has been in the past 5 or 6 weeks, we have 2 wins. I don't think, like, he had 2 rushing touchdowns against the Raiders. He had a rushing touchdown against the Cowboys, right? He balled out. He had over 300 yards passing against the Colts and almost 100 yards rushing or something like that, multiple touchdowns. He has 10 touchdowns and only 1 interception this whole year, and he's 4-2. And they still want to sit him against one of the better defenses in the NFL in the New York Jets, who just got Davante Adams, who are going to be one of those teams that are fighting for a wild card spot, right? The Steelers, who are going to be another team that are fighting for the wild card spot. When it comes down to the end of the year and there are tiebreakers, right? If the Jets had a win against the Steelers and they have the exact same record, the Jets are going to take that over, right? And then we're going to be thinking to ourselves, why did Mike Tomlin and the Steelers organization spot start Russell Wilson on a Sunday Night Football game after going 4-2 and playing against the New York Jets defense when the next week they're playing the New York Giants? To me, it just does not make sense, and I do not like the decision at all.
First and foremost, about the Colts game, Joe Flacco is just him. All right, I've come to that.
No, that's true. That's true.
I agree. I've come to that. He led the Browns to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? He's better in that situation than all of a sudden Joshua Downs is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL every time he plays. Yeah. But listen, I am 100% with you. The Pittsburgh Steelers, why are they so great at defense? Because they invest in their defense, all right? You pay these defensive players. You want the best safety. You want the best DN, right? You invest in paying those guys. You want to add to your linebacking core. You go out here, you sign that guy, right? And now we get in this situation where everybody is talking about Justin Fields as he's not producing, but I'm 100% with you. George Pickens is a great receiver, but I don't know if he's ready to be a true dominant wide receiver 1, right? And that's no disrespect to George Pickens. He's just not that type of guy yet. I think he's a great player, but I don't think he could carry that type of load and make his quarterback better, right? And like you said, outside of Van Jefferson, who else do you really got? Nobody, right? And it's the same Chicago Bears situation again. You put him in a situation where he's got one good receiver, a run-heavy OC in Luke Getsky, right, before he ended up getting fired. And as soon as Luke Getsky gets fired, you start spreading out the ball to Darnell Mooney and all these other weapons. Cole Kmet and doing all these things, and Justin Fields looked like a solid quarterback. There was a split second last year where the second half of the season we're like, oh my God, two blown games, and this team could be a wild card team. So I am
Mhm.
tired of people looking at Justin Fields as the issue because I'm with you. When you have a run heavy OC who's not playing to his strengths, who's not allowing him to throw the ball, and your run game is terrible, like I'm in the same situation as you. You like we obviously we don't have a quarterback, but we have Jacoby Myers, who I don't care what anybody says is a great receiver, Trey Tucker, right, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. We still had Devontae Adams at that moment, and we couldn't do anything. Why? Because we were a run heavy offense that couldn't run the damn ball. And when you don't have a quarterback that's going like a Pat Mahomes, right? You're looking at a guy you're trying to see who could elevate the entire offense. That's not the type of guy he is. He knows his role. We know what he is, his ceiling as a quarterback, and you've got to play to his strengths. Everyone's looking at him as he needs to be a Ben Roethlisberger to the situation, but he's not. He can be a Baker Mayfield, a Geno Smith type guy, where you put him in here, you just put great pieces around him, right? It's not going to be a $55 million quarterback. You have to have good weapons around him, and when you invest specifically only on defense, this is the result you're going to get. You're going to be an absolute great defense, but your offense is going to be lackluster, right? And now you're trying to get a fifth round pick. Yes, he's a dog, but George Pickens to develop so quickly into a Devontae Adams, a Justin Jefferson who could just do it all, and he's just not ready for that, right? He's always been a guy that just he's not a high volume guy, right? He's not going to get all these targets. Now he is because there is no chance. There's nobody else on the team, right? But
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like now you have to do it by choice, and now he gets upset when he's not getting the ball. But now he's getting double covered. Now he's getting the best DB every single weekend, and now you're gonna go play the Jets, who's the one of the best secondaries in football, the best secondary in football possibly.
Mhm.
All right. So and their weakness is their run game. They can't stop the run, and if you can't run the ball against one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL, right, and you still want to blame Justin Fields as your problem, I understand the short fuse thing, right? I understand like even Philadelphia, you have the same issues. Tough fan base, right? They're tough on their team. Their head coach, they're booing after they get a win, right? Because it's ugly. They know what they should be looking like, and they know they're not playing their best football, right? But I'm 100% with you. Everybody who's been disrespecting Justin Fields, he's taken over the turnover portion of his game. He hasn't been like strictly running the ball as a quarterback. He's been trying to make plays and trying to extend plays, but there's absolutely nothing there. And you expect Russell Wilson, a guy who likes to do that creativity, get outside the pocket, get on the move, extend plays, and it's just going to be the same thing, but worse. Because Russell Wilson is older. I don't trust him to make those type of plays anymore. He's not as athletic or as fast as Justin Fields. Clearly not now, right? And so I feel for Justin Fields, and I think this is going to be an ugly loss for you guys, truly, right? And no matter how good your defense is, Russell Wilson's going to go in there. He's going to look old. You're not going to have a run game to support him. You're not going to have a wide receiver two, and it's going to be the same exact conversation just another week. And I don't know what they want him to do because it bothers me again when you put so much blame on a quarterback who has absolutely no support on offense. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, again, I'm 100% with you. They need to help my boy figure it out. But yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I sound like a fucking true diehard Steelers fan at this current
I
moment.
know,
It's like,
right?
it's
Hey, you're starting to feel it now.
but, okay, and then I'm gonna pull up the schedule. We'll do our pickups real quick. Oh
Sounds
man,
good.
that was yeah. Because I mean, Justin Fields is one of those guys where I really, this offseason I want him to come to Oakland or Vegas. So trust me, I feel you. All right, boom, boom, boom. Opening game. All right, here we go. We have the New England Patriots playing in London against the Jaguars, 1-5 versus 1-5. The Jags are 5.5 point favorites. Who do you got in this game?
This is a beautiful tank bowl. Obviously, it's going to be easy to go with the Jaguars in this case, but I'm actually going to go with the Patriots here. I think this is going to be contrary to popular belief, but I think Drake May played very well for his first game. Knowing how just bad that Patriots team is and that offensive line and everything. Sure, he threw a couple of picks, but he also threw for over 250 yards, I believe, and 3 touchdowns. He threw 3 touchdowns in his debut as a rookie. And that Jaguars defense is absolutely horrible. They have the last net rating as a secondary in the NFL. They literally have the worst secondary in the NFL, and that's going to be really great for Drake May and the Patriots. The only thing though I know is all the London games, all the games out of the country that play super early in the morning, they're always usually super low scoring games. They can usually never really get anything going on offense. this is obviously a lot of people are hyping this up as the Tank Bowl. You know, whoever gets this is going to get Travis Hunter or whatever, whoever is going to go number one. But this
So
this
sad.
game I actually have the Patriots. I can see both teams winning, but I'm going to go with the Patriots and I'm going to go with Drake May.
I'm with you. Listen, Drake May, what I seen last week, he started off with that early interception, and it was just a bad overthrow. Nerves, you can clearly tell, right? But he's in another one of those Justin Fields situations where now, except now his defense is not as good, right? You have pieces, but it's not. So I like what I see from him. I mean, listen, Jacoby Brissett could not make some of the throws that I seen him make, and Drake May again is an absolute. I just think he elevates his team, right? And he's getting the most out of Demario Douglas, right? And if Jalen Polk can hold on to a football, well, he'd be looking like a very good wide receiver in this league. But he can't. He leads the team in drops. I think he's like top 10 in the NFL in drops. But even then, this Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, at this point, I hope they lose on purpose so they get off the Doug Peterson train and just get him out of there because this is not good for Trevor.
Yeah.
This is his second year in his career where it's just been an absolute shit show. But again, I'm with it. The Patriots here in an upset. I would love them at plus 5.5. But this again, low scoring game. I have Ramondre Stevenson having a very good game against Jacksonville tomorrow. Getting into week two, we have the Seattle Seahawks playing the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons are playing at home. Kenneth Walker was said to be going to be starting tomorrow. Who you got?
I've got the Falcons winning this. I think the Falcons are one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. I think their offense is finally clicking. Kirk Cousins, and they finally got Bijan going on the ground last week. That pair with just Bijan and Algier has been amazing this year. I mean, just the past week, it was amazing. I think both of them almost ran for over 200 yards combined. Bijan had a couple of touchdowns. Algier had a touchdown. I think that offense is extremely dynamic. The Seahawks defense is pretty decent, but I don't think the Seahawks offense is going to get really anything rolling against the Falcons defense. And I feel like the Falcons are really hot right now, and I'm just going to take them in this game. I think they're going to win it.
Yeah, and again, I'm 100% with you. I didn't even realize Geno Smith was averaging 294 yards a game. Which is a
Yeah,
big,
yeah, he's doing really
which
well.
which is a
Look at
big red flag for me. I mean, again, he's playing
Yeah.
great, but you shouldn't have to have Geno Smith throw the ball that much. He's
Exactly.
better when he doesn't have to. But I think this Atlanta Falcons team is finally, catching stride. You see Drake London has been absolutely dominating. Kyle Pitts is finally starting to get involved. Am I buying stock in Kyle Pitts to continue this production? Absolutely not. He's sitting on my bench, right? I have T.J. Hawkinson and David Njoku, who I'm waiting to get healthy and active. But again, I think this is going to be a Bijan Robinson game as well. I mean, one of the worst run defenses, a very poor run defense, and they've just got absolutely torched week by week. And then you've seen game after game, the secondary has to play up, play closer to help support that run game. And as soon as they do that, they get cut and for these deep plays down the field. So I got Atlanta Falcons here. I would take them at the spread. Boom. Getting into week three. Week three, or except game three, we have the Tennessee Titans playing the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo at 10 a.m. Obviously, Buffalo is going to be favorites. Who do you got?
Give me the Tennessee
I was
Titans
I was about to
beating the
say I was about to say
Buffalo Bills, baby.
sneaky trap games. Mason Rudolph's playing sneaky trap
Mason
game.
Rudolph, first start of the year against the Buffalo Bills. I've been preparing for this the whole year since week one when I knew that Will Levis was just not the answer. I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans in this. I think it's going to be a really low scoring game. I think that Titans defense is going to bear down. I don't know how they're going to do it. Don't tell me how they're going to do it. Don't ask me how they're going to do it. Maybe Josh Allen, the turnover bug hits him a little bit. Maybe they just can't get anything going in the run game. James Cook coming off an injury. I believe he's going to be playing tomorrow, but I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans in a trap game upset here with Mason Rudolph starting his first game this year for the Tennessee Titans. I feel like that offense
I
is
love it.
there.
I love it.
The run game has been there with Tony Pollard. He's been great this year. They've got Calvin Ridley. They've got Hopkins. They've got Tyler Boyd. They have the weapons there. Will Levis just is not a great quarterback right now, and he's going to need a lot of time if he's still going to eventually be that guy in Tennessee. Mason Rudolph is a great guy who's just going to stand in there. He's going to get it done. He's going to get the ball to the people that are open, and he's going to run the offense. He's just going to be one of those facilitators, and I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans over the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and we've seen, and I listen, I'm with you because this Tennessee defense is sneaky good, right? It's been very good, low scoring games. Their only issue is that their quarterback is just possibly the worst quarterback in the NFL, right? Which hurts. Tony Paul has been playing actually really good. DeAndre Hopkins, I know he's aging, but I still think he's a solid number two option. Calvin Ridley, a guy who I'm always very highly on. he just doesn't get enough targets. And simple as that, right? Tyler Boyd as a wide receiver 3 is just a great weapon as well. So I'm going with you here. I agree. Mason Rudolph's going to come in here in a trap game and dominate. I think this is the week we've been waiting for this Tennessee offense to just splurge, right? And they're going to come out here dominate. I expect Tennessee to score some points, maybe the most points they've had all year in a single game, right? So I'm with you. Upset alert. We got the Tennessee Titans going into Buffalo and winning. Hopefully Amari Cooper has a solid game, first game in here. But again, I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Good luck to Amari. Also, too, Mason Rudolph, first start for the Tennessee Titans is going to be against the Buffalo Bills, the team that he played against last as a starter in the playoffs last year. So that'll be very interesting. I know he's already seen that defense, and this time that defense is going to be without a few of the weapons that they had last year.
Right.
So we will definitely see. He's definitely seen that Buffalo Bills defense already, and probably the schemes that they have thrown out there. So it's not like he's going in blind firing against a team that he hasn't played. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting game, I think.
Yeah, and this defense has looked vulnerable in certain games, depending on matchups. So I'm with you. I expect them to come out there and punch him in the mouth. Game 4, we have the Cleveland Browns playing at home versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Although we know Joe Burrow struggles against the AFC North, who do we got?
Yeah, I got the Bengals. I mean,
All right, all
as
right.
long as long as Deshaun Watson is at quarterback for the Browns, I literally just can't take them, man. I know the contract. I know you're paying the guy so much money, but man, give a shot to DTR, give a shot to Jameis Winston. You know what I mean? Winston has been pretty serviceable in past years. He's thrown for a ton of yards, obviously a ton of interceptions as well. But if I'm the Browns, I'd rather have Jameis going out there throwing 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I honestly don't care. I'm just bored of watching Deshaun Watson throw for 170, 180 yards a game, no touchdowns, and maybe 1 interception and 40 yards rushing on the ground. The Cleveland Browns, right? Their defense has kind of been porous this year, but that could also be attributed to just time of possession in the games. Every other offense is just has the ball a lot longer than the Cleveland Browns offense, and that Cleveland Browns defense is on the field for so long during every single game. I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning this one. Obviously, it's an AFC North matchup, so knowing that it can always go either way, but I do have the Bengals taking this one. I think Joe Burrow and them will be able to score enough points to win the game, and that I don't think the Browns are going to score enough points to win this game.
Yeah, and Deshaun Watson is. I'm with you on this one. I think it's going to be a close game just because again, divisional game, AFC North, anything can happen. But I think this is going to. How long do you think they could ride with Deshaun Watson? Obviously, we heard the head coach say that Deshaun is our quarterback, so he's is the best option for our team. But how do you have any theories, any conspiracy theories? Because I heard that it has to do with the owner. They just either there's two options. One, I heard that they're trying to humiliate him on the biggest stage possible every Sunday because of everything that's happened with the lawsuits and all this stuff. And two, I've heard that they just don't want to look like, clowns for all the stuff they invested into him, the contract, the first big time guaranteed contract like that. And so they're kind of just like, we have no other option choice. So
Oh yeah, it's most definitely the ignorance to me. I think that they're going to be like, we literally invested so much into this guy. We just need to keep playing him. Like once we bench him, it's going to be blowing up on social media. Worst trade in NFL history, worst
already
overpay
is.
in history. It already is, right? Once you bench him, then that's like when it finally sets in and all the news articles and all the tweets or the X tweets or whatever, they're all going to be just pouring out. Everyone's going to be going to the Browns, clowning them and everything, just like the poverty franchise they've always been. I absolutely hate the Cleveland Browns and everything they have going on with their organization. They will always be poverty. They will always do this. It will always happen. Every year, it's always the Browns will win. The Browns this, the Browns that. The Browns got Odell Beckham Jr. They're going to be so good. No, it never pans out, man. It never pans out. The way they treated Baker Mayfield, man, the way that organization has just treated people in the past and how it's just a quarterback graveyard and all this stuff. I don't like the Cleveland Browns, and I'm kind of happy that it happened to them. Do I see them? I feel like I don't know when their bye week is. I'm not a Browns fan. I don't keep up with that. I don't think they've had their bye yet. But I think if it keeps going this way, I think during the bye week, that is when you'll start hearing a lot of buzz and a lot of rumors about maybe they start someone else, maybe they start Jameis and see how it goes. I think we'll leave it up to the bye week because I know like so the bye week for the Tennessee Titans went like Will Levis, got hurt, whatever. Mason Rudolph came in. They scored like over 30 points. Bye week came. They started Will Levis one more time. He did not do well. Mason Rudolph starter, right? So maybe that's going to be the Browns. They'll take the bye week, right? The buzz will come around, whatever. They'll play one more game after that. If Deshaun doesn't produce or whatever, then they'll spot start another guy. Maybe that's how it's going to be. I really don't know, but I do see them maybe just trying to stick it out with Deshaun the rest of the year because they just have so much invested in him that they'd rather, they're either tanking or going with Watson as their guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just don't understand how he can be single handedly be this bad in this offense after we just seen what Joe Flacco did. Joe Flacco was out here torching defenses left and right,
Oh yeah,
and led you to
100%.
the playoffs. So, and then he just did it in Indianapolis. So clearly he did
Yeah.
something right. And the fact that because you could have got Joe Flacco for cheap, compared to what you're paying Deshaun. So I don't know what's going on over there. But
Mhm.
the next game we had the Houston Texans going to Lambeau Field playing the Green Bay Packers. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is going to be good. I'm going to go with, I don't know. I think this is going to be a really exciting game to watch. It's one of those games that's going to go down to the wire. It might be a little high scoring. I'm going to go with the Texans here and CJ Stroud. I just feel like that's the safe pick. Obviously, I'd love to go with Jordan Love. He's been playing very solid over the past few weeks. But I'm just going to go with the Texans. I just feel like they've been pretty solid the past couple weeks. Tank Dell finally, having a little breakout game last week, obviously, with Nico Collins not playing and Joe Mixon being an absolute stud on the ground too. But I'm going to go with the Texans in this game, even though I can see it going both ways. I feel like it's going to be one of those pretty exciting games this week.
I got the Green Bay Packers this week. Every week so far, I've watched Jordan Love play, and there's been a couple moments where it's like bad throw here, take a sack here, trying to do too much here, made a bad interceptions and things like that. I think this is going to be his first really clean game, and if you get rid of all those bad decisions, those bad throws where you're just trying to do too much, I think this is an
Yeah.
offense that just won't be stopped. Do I trust the Green Bay Packers to stop the Houston Texans? That's a different story. I expect a high scoring game, but I do think this Houston Texans defense had moments where they've looked, lackadaisical, specifically in the defense. Offensively, they haven't been like blowing teams out either. So I got to Green Bay here in an upset. Josh Jacobs, I think he's gonna have himself a good day on the ground. I love his, and then I just think I don't know, just Green Bay all the way. Matt, I can't. I'm blanking on the head coach's name, but you know who I'm talking about. Um,
Floor.
Matt
Is that
LaFleur.
his
There you
last
go.
name?
Yep, there you go. Matt LaFleur, Green Bay here. The next
Sweet.
game we got the Indianapolis Colts playing the Miami Dolphins in Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson will be starting this game. Who do you got?
This is a really hard game for me because I know that the Dolphins defense has been playing so well, like every single week prior. And they've just been, I just keep seeing clips of how good that defense is against opposing quarterbacks, and obviously AR coming in. I'm gonna go with the Colts here. I don't think the Dolphins with their quarterback situation and Tyler Huntley are gonna win this game, even though the Colts defense is not that great. I just think the Colts are just a better team, and I feel like they're just gonna be outmatched. And maybe even if it's low scoring or whatever, I think the Colts will just figure it out. I really hope Anthony Richardson has a great game. I'm really praying for him out here. I really hope that he has a good game. I think he needs to focus more on, those easy touch and go routes, those easy drag routes, the slant routes, the out routes, the curl routes, the ones that are going to get you, 5 to 8 yards each play rather than just chucking it deep 70 yards down the field to Alec Pierce, right? Or like throwing it 40 yards down the field and, getting 2 or 3 interceptions a game. I want to see a conservative Anthony Richardson this game. I want to see a guy that just moves the sticks and drives the ball down the field and is conservative. And they lean on JT and that run game to be able to just open up the passing game for Anthony Richardson. So I have the Colts in this game just because I do not think the Dolphins offense is going to get anything going to where they're going to be able to outscore the Colts.
If Jonathan Taylor plays, I'm with the Colts here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not 100% if he is, but I know he's been obviously missed last week. But
Yeah.
if he does, I'm with the Colts here. I just think they can rely on Jonathan Taylor to lead them to victory here. He's been absolutely great this year when he's played in the pass game, obviously dominating the run game. And I just think there's too many weapons on this Colts team that underrated weapons, but I still think weapons. I mean Joshua Downs, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell's finally getting some touches going on, and we've seen what Joe Flacco can do with this offense. So, and I think you add Jonathan Taylor to the mix and Anthony Richardson's dual threat ability. Again, limit the mistakes, You could cruise to a victory here with Tyler Huntley playing quarterback. So I got the Indianapolis Colts here as well.
So yeah, I saw an update on Twitter that it said that Jonathan Taylor is out this week. So
There you go.
yeah, that's a big that's a big kind of
But
hit.
man,
I'm still gonna go with the Colts. I'll still stick with it, but that makes me not feel good about that pick as much as I was before.
I'm going with the Dolphins. No
Okay.
JT. Trey Sermon has not looked good in any of these games I got. Anthony Richardson's going to make one big bad throw, and the Dolphins are going to run all over this defense. Devin A.
Yeah.
Chain, Raheem Mostert. It's going to be run, 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 run. Maybe we see a couple little quick passes to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they use their speed to make
Um,
plays. But I just can't. I don't trust Anthony Richardson single handedly without AR. I'm going the Dolphins. Let's go Tyler Huntley this weekend,
there
baby.
we go. Yeah.
And then the next game, possibly the biggest game this week, we have the Detroit Lions playing the Minnesota Vikings. They are playing in Minnesota. Undefeated Sam Darnold, MVP candidate. Who do you got?
I'm gonna go with the Vikings here.
Oh, I love it.
I can see
Uh huh.
I've kind of jumped on the Sam Darnold hype train with you. Um, I just think this Vikings team is just so well put together with the offense and then how good the defense and Brian Flores has been too. The huge thing too for me for the Lions, they lost Aiden Hutchinson. That was their backbone on that defense. RIP Aiden. I really hope he feels better. I hope he comes back next season and just plays
Better than
as
ever.
well as he did before. And hopefully it's not like, a career reshaper type of injury because it looked really bad. But man, that Lions defense was headed by Aiden. I mean, he was number one in the NFL in QB hurries, and he was literally first in the NFL in sacks. And that's a huge guy that you're losing for your defense, right? So maybe that pass rush doesn't get there as much as it did, right? I highly I bet that Aiden was a great, run stopper too. He was probably really good in the run defense as well. So that defense is going to have a little bit more molding to do. I know that Jack Campbell is a great field general in the middle of that defense too. Brian Branch is going to be an all pro this year. He's been amazing. But I don't think that Lions defense is going to get it done without Aiden Hutchinson. Losing Aiden Hutchinson last week and against that Vikings offense and Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones, I just think that they're going to ball out. I think Sam Darnold's going to do well. He's not going to play too much. He's not going to try to play hero. He's going to have consistent move the stick throws, maybe a deep ball here or there to Jettas or to Jordan Addison. I don't know if TJ Hawkinson is playing or not. I know that maybe this was the week that he comes back. I don't know if he's playing or not, but either way, that's just another cherry on top if Hawkinson's back. Whether or not, regardless, I'm going with the Vikings here.
This one's tough for me because obviously one of the better defenses, one of the best defenses in football, the best defense against the run, which absolutely plays into what Detroit likes to do. I trust
Mhm.
Jared Goff to make some plays. Um,
Yeah.
but it's in Minnesota. It's a division game. Go
Mhm.
either way here, and Jared Goff typically under pressure has not performed his best. This year he's done better under pressure, but always there's always that game where it just happens to be too much. A I'm going with Minnesota here as well. I just think, listen, Justin Jefferson owns this matchup. I mean, I think nothing less than 120 yards every time he's played the Detroit Lions. Outside of the 1 week he got hurt playing against them. And I just think I know the secondary's gotten better. You don't have again, you lost Hutch, right? I just don't know if I trust a Carlton Davis, a Terrion Arnold to go out here and guard Justin Jefferson. And now you're getting Jordan Addison to be healthy more weeks with getting healthier and getting added into this team. And I'm still obviously 100% high on Sam Darnold. Last week he played a tough defense in the Jets, so he struggled a bit, but I expect him to have a bounce back game. I think this is going to be a Justin Jefferson versus Jared Goff type game. Who can play better against these type of circumstances? Because I think the run games on both sides are going to be put to a minimum. But if Detroit somehow find a way to run the ball consistently and run the ball enough, with that great old line they're behind, this game can get really interesting. But again, I'm gonna go with Minnesota here. I think Minnesota goes 6-0 to continue their undefeated streak. And then the next game, the last 10 o'clock game, 1 Eastern, we have the New York Giants playing against the Philadelphia Eagles in New York. The Philadelphia Eagles are favored in this game. Malik Neighbors will be back in the starting lineup. Who do you got?
I've got the Eagles. This is another one of those games though where it kind of looks like I look at the schedule and how the Giants have played, right? They're 2-4. Obviously, it doesn't look great on their schedule and stuff, but I think that they've been playing most of the teams pretty well. That they beat the Seattle Seahawks, right? And I mean that's one of the same teams that has had a couple of nice wins as well. I feel like this could maybe be a trap game for the Eagles, but I mean, maybe I'm just, looking too deep into it. This is a pretty one-sided game. Like I said, the Eagles roster is pretty stacked. Um, and I just feel like they're going to outweapon the Giants, even though with Malik Neighbors back, Darius Slayton had a couple weeks ago or last week, he had a really great game. Maybe, they have a chance to score some points against the Eagles, and then maybe Jalen Hurts, turnover bug, whatever. I don't know. I'm going with the Eagles, though. I feel like I might just be thinking too much about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, all the signs say take the Eagles, but again, this New York Giants defense has actually played very, very good. Their secondary obviously hasn't been fantastic, but it hasn't been
Mhm.
poor either. Obviously you've seen what they did to Cincinnati, who was looked like unstoppable on offense at one point. So I mean, again, if they get a turnover, maybe they can get lucky, something like that. But again, I'm going with Philadelphia here. That's just absolutely too much talent to lose a game like this. If worst comes to worst, just either throw the ball up to AJ Brown or hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley every play, and that should be enough to win. Hopefully the defense doesn't give up, get absolutely exposed by Daniel Jones, because that will be absolute chaos for Philadelphia Eagles fans. But I'm with you. I'm going with the Eagles here. Then the next game, we have the Las Vegas Rams versus the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. 1 o'clock game. Who do you got?
I want to say my pick is contingent on if Cooper Cup plays, I have the Rams winning. If he does not play, I have the Raiders winning. I know he's questionable. I feel like that Rams offense is literally just non-existent without one of their weapons, obviously in Puka Nakua or Cooper Cup. I guess their run game is, always pretty solid week in and week out with Kyron Williams. He's been pretty well, but that Raiders defense is a lot better than it's looked the past couple weeks or whenever, they gave up 32 points to the Steelers, but a lot of those points were kind of like, turnover, gimme kind of points, a blocked punt or whatever. But I feel like if Cooper Cup plays, I think they'll be able to kind of open up that run game more, and they'll be able to just force Cooper Cup the ball. And the last time Cooper played like a full game, he had a lot of receptions for a lot of yards. He's one of those volume guys. So I'm gonna go with the Rams if Cooper Cup plays, but if Cooper Cup does not play, I would definitely lean towards the Raiders. I think Aiden O'Connell looked above. He didn't look too bad against the Steelers. Obviously he played pretty passive. He threw that interception. But I feel like at the end of the game, they literally drove down the field with ease. Maybe that was just because, Steelers defense was pretty gassed. I don't know if they were just letting up or whatever, but he drove down the field with ease, threw a touchdown pass. And he looked pretty solid. From what I mean, when they were actually, getting the ball to Brock Bowers, obviously he didn't have a run game. That Steelers front is pretty good, so they weren't able to establish the run. But that Rams front is not looking the greatest, and maybe they can establish the run game and then open up the pass game for Aiden O'Connell, and he can figure it out, and they can get the ball to Brock Bowers, and then maybe Trey Tucker in there too. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, and again, the Las Vegas Raiders look like the absolute best team in football the first drive of the game. Luke Getzky does this. He has one drive a
Mhm.
game where it just looks like unstoppable, and that's what he did. I'm sitting here on my couch. I said, "Wow, we look damn good, huh?" Am I excited for this next drive? The next time we get the ball? No, because I know it's not going to last. Against the Denver Broncos, Gardner Minshew, first drive of the game, went down with ease. Jacoby Myers owned passer 10 on that drive. We scored. We look great. You know what the final score was? 33-6. Like I'm not trying to win. So if we go out here and we win, I don't care. Like I'm not trying to win at this point. I need a quarterback.
Yeah.
I need to lose. I need picks. The lost Matthew Stafford better come out here and pull some shit out of his ass.
Throw for
Sean
300
McVay, all
yards.
right. Listen, like Sean McVay, if you lose to the fucking Raiders with Aiden O'Connell,
Yeah.
we've got fucking problems, all right? You guys are 1-5. We got more wins than you. Come out, or 2-5, whatever it is, 2-4. Come out here and get a fucking another win, because we need L's. All right. So let's go. I got the Rams here. Let's go fucking Sean
Okay,
McVay.
there we
All
go. There
right,
we
fuck.
go.
I'm tired of this shit. The next The next game, we have the Carolina Panthers playing the Washington Commanders after a heartbreaking loss against the Baltimore Ravens in Washington, another home game. Who do we got?
Commanders easy. I feel like, man, the Commanders have been so good this year. Just the offense with Jaden Daniels, even like playing against the Ravens and how well they played, and the fact that I think they should have won that game, and it kind of just went both ways. Um, Yeah, I have the Commanders in this pretty easy. Maybe like by two or more touchdowns. I just feel like they're such a complete team. That defense has been playing so much better than I thought it would, and obviously the offense is so high powered with Jaden Daniels and Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler and Terry and everybody else, even Luke McCaffrey getting in there and getting some valuable minutes. But yeah, I have the Commanders in this one, and I'm not really going to think too much about it past
Yeah,
that.
and again, I'm with you. I think the Commanders got this, but I do think it's going to be a closer game than what some people expect, specifically
Okay.
because of Chuba Hubbard. He's playing absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, I liked him coming out of Oklahoma State, right? I like when he got drafted there. He played behind Christian McCaffrey for a year, and then boom, he's finally fell into his own role. But I mean, what, he's sixth in the NFL in rushing yards. Maurice Jones-Drew showing him mad love. He's being one of the best bags in the league at this current moment, and I think he's going to continue against a weak Washington Commanders rush defense. I think they're going to control the tempo of the game. I have no issues with the Commanders scoring points. It's just a matter of how many points they can score with how slow pace and time controlling of the clock the Carolina Panthers are going to try to play. Maybe
Yep.
Deontay Johnson makes a couple big plays against this defense as well. But again, I have the Commanders here winning, pretty with ease. But again, I do think it's gonna be closer than a blowout. And then the next game we have the Super Bowl rematch. The Kansas City Chiefs playing the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy. I've heard a lot of talk about Brock Purdy, about this lackluster Kansas City Chiefs offense. Who do we got in the rematch?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Niners here. I feel like this is gonna be a really good game. The whole thing for me is I think last week was kind of I really think that 49ers defense is gonna hone in on Travis Kelce. I don't think they're gonna let Travis Kelce beat them this week. And Juju, hey, Juju had a Juju game last week. I was so happy for Juju, man. He went off. I was literally my phone was lighting up, everybody telling me like, hey, Juju finally had a great game, blah, 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 whatever. Because they finally started giving the ball and targeting him and stuff. I'll be honest, like hard truth, really hard truth, kind of that hard pill to swallow. I don't think he's going to match the production that he did
He
last week.
won't.
I don't even see him going over 40 yards receiving. And Xavier Worthy, he's great, but he hasn't been like that. He's not a wide receiver one. He's not a wide receiver even maybe two right now. I think the most receiving yards he had was maybe 70 a couple weeks ago, and during that 70 receiving yard game, he had one catch for 54 yards. So I think maybe they try some gadget plays here and there. Maybe they try to get the run game going, but they don't have Isaiah Pacheco. If the 49ers can figure out a way to lock down Travis Kelce, right? This is not the same Chiefs team, right? That was in the Super Bowl that beat the Niners. Okay. It's not the same team right now. That offense is not the same as it was. And I mean, obviously the Niners, they don't have CMC, right? They might not have Jordan Mason, but honestly, with that offensive line, it doesn't matter who you put
Everybody's gonna
back
run the
there, right?
ball.
That Isaac Guerendo, whoever the third string running back was, he was still a dog. He was getting
That was
carries. He was
crazy.
literally everything was there. It didn't matter who you put in the backfield. So I'm not too worried about that. I think Brock Purdy will find the Chiefs defense is so good, man, with Nick Bolton and Trent McDuffie, and Brian Cook's been playing well, and Justin Reed's been playing out of his mind, and Carl Loftus is also a dog too. It's going to be, I think this is going to be a pretty low scoring game, more than people think. I don't think any of the teams are going to score 30 points. I think it's going to be in the 20s, low 20s, maybe like 17-21, something like that. I really don't see them scoring a lot of points. I think the defenses are going to hone down. And have the Niners in this. I just think the Niners offense is going to be able to score more points than the Chiefs defense. And that's not saying that the Niners offense is better than the Chiefs defense. I just think the Niners have a better chance of scoring against the Chiefs defense than the Chiefs offense has scoring against the 49ers defense.
Yeah, and the one thing I will always give the Chiefs is that when they want to stop something or one aspect to the opponent's game, they can do that, right? They want to
Mhm.
focus on stopping the run, they can do that. They did it against Atlanta and Bijan, right? Because they just decided we're gonna go one-on-one matchups in the secondary. We don't trust this young receiving core. And outside of Brandon Ayuk, who's finally started to come through, nobody really and George Kittle's George Kittle, right? But nobody really scares me as a receiving threat. Jawan Jennings having a great year, sure, but he's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, however you want to put it. Debo Samuel, again, not somebody I'm scared of running routes on me. This run game is going to be the point of emphasis, so maybe we see a Super Bowl like performance where they lock in on stopping the run and making Brock Purdy try to beat him. Although Brock Purdy's been playing pretty good this year, um, I feel like it's a lose-lose because if I go say, let's go to the Niners, let's go beating the Chiefs, then I'm like, damn, you're going for Brock Purdy and the Niners. And then if I say, I want the Niners to lose, then it's like, oh, you're going for the undefeated 2-time back-to-back defending champs Chiefs.
I
Like,
know, right?
and then
Yeah.
into my division. So it's like, you know what? Today, I'm going for the Niners. I hope they give them a fucking
Here you
fat
go.
L because I can't watch these fuckers three-peat, right? And go undefeated or any of that shit. So here we go. Let's go
Yeah.
Niners. I'm hoping Brock Purdy has himself a great game. Hopefully this Chiefs offense stays lackluster. Then we got the biggest night, the biggest game on your schedule this weekend. The Pittsburgh Steelers against the New York Jets. Russell Wilson, spot start. How we feeling?
I have the Jets winning this game. Yeah, I don't know what our offense is going to look like with Russell Wilson really in the preseason. The only, snaps that Russell Wilson got in the preseason, he looked like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not going to lie. Obviously, it's preseason. We take preseason with a grain of salt. But yeah, he did not look great at all whatsoever in the preseason. It's just the Jets defense is looking better each and every week. Obviously, I feel like Aaron Rodgers has been absolutely selling the Jets the past couple of weeks with those obviously game-ending interceptions. And I feel like, he needs to take more accountability of, he's
Well,
obviously
right,
he's a head coach. He's a head coach wrecker, right? They keep
right.
calling him a head coach wrecker. Saleh fired. Is this going to be, I think this is going to be the first game without Robert Saleh, right? Is their head coach.
Second game. Last week
A
was the
second
first
game,
one.
second game. Sorry, last week. Yeah. And that was a pretty close game. I feel like the Steelers defense, obviously they locked in on the Raiders, right? Last week. I just don't think the Raiders had enough playmakers on that team to, continue after that first drive. Because after that first drive, man, the Steelers defense looked like grated cheese. They looked like absolute, like
Don't remind me.
horrible. Like there was like couldn't stop
Oh
them.
no.
Like you couldn't stop and I feel like the Jets are probably going to come out like that. They're going to come out slinging the ball, but they have more weapons. I believe Devonte Adams is probably playing this week, and he's just gonna he's not gonna skip a beat. He's coming back with Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback that he's already played with. They have Garrett Wilson, they have Brees Hall, they have Braylon Allen. Right, Braylon Allen's a dog. Brees kind of he's warming up now. He's doing a lot better. He had a great game last week, and the Steelers defense, I'm still waiting on that game where they kind of just they give up a ton of yards. They had that game against the Colts. They kind of, they settled in against the Raiders, but I don't think this is one of those games where they're going to be able to settle down in. If they go down 2 scores and we're forced to throw the ball with Russell Wilson and we can't establish our run game, it's going to be game over. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen. The New York Jets are going to come out here. They're going to start off hot. They're going to drive down the field. They're going to get a touchdown. The Steelers are probably going to start out with a run. It's going to be a 2 or 3 yard run, incomplete pass. We're going to punt. The Jets are going to score again. We're going to be down 10 or 14. And then the rest of the game, we're going to be trying to play catch up with Russell Wilson, who's a quarterback in his mid 30s, who's past his prime. And, it's his first start of the whole year against the New York Jets defense, who's one of the best secondaries in the NFL. So we're not going to be able to play catch up in the pass game if we go down 2 scores. So I just have the Jets winning this game. I don't see the Steelers winning this game.
Listen, no Robert Saleh. The defense, New York Jets
Here we
defense looked
go.
like they
Here
had
we go.
holes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
listen, it was fact, right? The Buffalo Bills offense shouldn't have done what they did against the Jets outside of running the ball, which they did. Okay, you're letting Shakir, Keon Coleman and these guys dash you up. Okay, listen,
Mhm.
this Jets O line is not good. Their left tackle,
That's
old.
true.
Tyron Smith, not good. He's old. He's old. Okay, this Jets team, they have another rookie tackle they drafted. I think he plays every once in a while. This to me is screaming a TJ Watt masterclass. Like I'm talking forced fumble on forced fumble. They're gonna try to double him, but they're not gonna stop him. Listen, and I think TJ Watt is single handedly gonna keep this team from scoring more than 10 points. I think
Well, he's the reason we won last week. So
But listen, here's where it gets tricky. Is I think Russell Wilson is not going to score more than 10 points either. So I'm looking at
it's
the
going to
Jets
come
winning.
down to
Listen,
the
it's going to come
classic
down to
Steelers.
Greg Joseph, just like it did against the Denver Broncos. I got the New York Jets winning by a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, there we
It's
go.
going to
I
be
like
9-6 again. just like the Broncos and Jets
Nine
game.
to six.
It's going to be 9-6.
Yeah.
Greg Joseph game-winning field goal. T.J. Watt's going to have an absolute masterclass, and we're still going to wonder why Russell Wilson ever got the starting job in the first place. All right, so again, heartbreaking. If I'm a Steelers fan, I'm hurting after that one. If T.J. Watt has a game like that, go 9, 6 points all game, and you like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I would lose it. Then we get into the
Mhm.
Monday night game. We have the Arizona Cardinals playing the Los Angeles Chargers. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Cardinals here. I feel like Kyler's just been playing well every week. I feel like they've kind of just been playing. They've been playing pretty good teams as of late. They kind of got blown out by the Packers and that Packers team. But if you look at the box score of every game, I mean, the run game just wasn't there. And Marvin Harrison, he didn't even play or he got hurt or whatever. I don't know if he's going to be back this week or not, but
He will be back.
I think that yeah, I think that offense will be able to score points. This might be a high scoring game with Herbert. Herbert looked really good last week, but the Chargers are just one of those teams where it's like, oh, they win. That's cool, bro. Like it's not like exciting when they win a game. No one's throwing. Herbert's not going out there throwing 300, 400 yards like he used to. He doesn't have the same. He doesn't have the same weapons that he did. Lad McConkey has been playing pretty well as of late. You know what I mean? And I mean, they barely beat the Broncos, right? I mean, 200 mid 200s for Herbert and a touchdown. J.K. Dobbins has been playing it out of his mind, but their leading wide receiver last week was Simi Fahoku, who was a Cowboys reject. So I have the Cardinals in this game, and I think Kyler Murray's going to have a great game. And yeah, this might be a little bit of a high scoring game. J.K. Dobbins might get the ball rolling. I think James Conner's going
Most
to play
definitely.
pretty well. Finally, he's going to have one of those games after he's had a couple of down weeks. But yeah, I have the Cardinals in this one.
Listen, and again, I love Kyler Murray. I'm a big fan since college, but I just can't trust this defense to stop anybody. And after what I seen from the Chargers last week against the Broncos, who was getting opposing running backs under 10 yards a game, like
Mm.
that is an elite rush defense. And for what they did to that Denver rush defense is just some of the best work I've seen for that New York, especially for the Chargers, right? Obviously, Harbaugh
Mhm.
coming in, you already set the tempo, get the best out of his defense, which Khalil Mack and Bosa are having like great years compared to what they've been doing previously. And then offensively, being able to run the ball, get the most out of Lad McConkey. Quentin Johnson has kind of died down a little bit from how the start he had. But I got the Chargers here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a high scoring game, but I just don't know if I trust the Arizona Cardinals to get more than one stop against a team like this. So I got the Chargers here. And then the last Monday night game, the last game of the slate, you have the Baltimore Ravens playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the second Monday night game. Who do we got?
Yeah, I'm going to be boring and I'm going to go the Ravens here. I think this is going to be a lot better of a game than people think. I think a lot of people, you have a an offense that scored 50 plus points last week. Baker Mayfield going absolutely insane week in, week out. That offense is looking so amazing and dynamic. I think this defense kind of reels them back into earth. I think it'll be maybe a Broncos game. Baker Mayfield, a Broncos, that Buccaneers offense, what they looked like against the Broncos. I'm certain that the Ravens are probably watching that Denver Broncos film and seeing how they play defense against the Buccaneers because they dropped 50 points last week and the Broncos could completely shut down that offense. I feel like that Buccaneers defense is not going to hold Lamar and Derrick Henry. They've just been growing in chemistry like a week in and week out. They've just been getting better and better and better. And yeah, I really think the Ravens are going to pull this one out.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be an old fashioned shootout. They've been in Baltimore's been in two shootouts back to back. Tampa Bay, obviously, 50 points against the Saints last week. You played against the Atlanta Falcons, where both offenses put up 500 yards combined. Baltimore, great run defense, a solid pass rush. Tampa Bay, emphasis on stopping the run as well. And I think you can get a Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson type masterclass. Do I trust Tampa Bay to stop both Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson on the run? No. But I think they can do a better job than some of these other teams. And if you can just get a couple stops, not let Derrick Henry break these big runs all the time, specifically in the second half of games, I think they could keep it close. And, maybe Lamar Jackson makes one big mistake, and that's all Baker needs. Because Baker's been playing very good to me. Chris Godwin looked like he's never aged, looked like he's never was hurt. Mike Evans, again, the most consistent receiver I've ever seen in my lifetime. He's just a great receiver at all times. And the way they've been able to run the ball with multiple running backs and Rashad White not performing well. Now you have Bucky Irving and Sharp, who Sterling Sharp, who popped up, who just dominated, right? So I got Tampa Bay winning in an absolute shootout. I wouldn't be surprised if Baker Mayfield has another 320 yards, but Bake Show, we are here. All right.
I would love if the Buccaneers win. If the Steelers lose, but the Buccaneers win, it's a W. It's okay as long as we stay tied in the AFC North. That's fine.
Baker Mayfield is coming through. Big trust.
Yeah,
Big trust. Woo woo.
trust.
All right.
Big trust. People.
Then getting into some NBA. The NBA season is right around the corner. All right, NBA season starts this upcoming Tuesday. Today we will be discussing the NBA Western Conference standings predictions. All right, and this for going through this, we will go from bottom to top. So from the 15th seed all the way to number one. I'll give my 15. You can give your 15, so on and so forth. So go ahead, start off. Give me your 15th team in the Western Conference.
So I only did a top 10.
That's fair.
So
That's
I got.
Go ahead. I'll give my 15 to 10 real quick. My
Okay.
15 to 11. 15 to 11. 15 the Blazers. I mean, listen, we don't really know what they're going to do. You brought in Denny Avita. DeAndre Ayton is a solid player. Like, are they going to keep him or are they going to move off him? You drafted Donovan Clingan. Chauncey Billups was not built for a rebuild. So I just don't see them. I don't know where they're going to go, right? They have way too many guards. Anthony Simons might get traded, so who knows? They got the Jazz at 14. I know they signed Larry Marketed, who's played great, but Keontae George, we're praying on him taking a jump. Cody Williams possibly taking a jump. Walker Kessler, a bounce back year for him. So I just don't see enough in this team to really compete with how deep the West is. I mean, the Rockets, again, they were like the 12th seed last year and they still won 41 games. So that's just, or the 11th seed and they won 41 games. So that just shows how competitive it is. At 13, I had the Warriors. I just don't believe this whole project with Steph Curry and Jonathan Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins. Like, I don't expect them to have a bounce back year outside of AirPods. That's I would say their second best player on this team, on a consistent basis every night. So I just don't see him winning. And I possibly see this be the year, maybe at the deadline, Steph Curry gets traded elsewhere. Who knows? At 12, I got the San Antonio Spurs. It was between them and the team I put at 11. The Spurs, again, I just don't know outside of Victor Wembanyama who's going to make that big jump. Is it going to be Devin Vassell? Is it going to be Jeremy Shoham? Is it going to be their rookie, Rob Dillingham, that they just drafted? So, again, we still got to figure this all out. And I don't know how good they're going to be. I know they're going to be a great defensive team. Obviously, Vic, we expect him to make a big leap, but I'm not sure this whole team is going to, take the same type of leap he is. And at 11, obviously they finished at 11 seed last year again, but I got the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets, 41 wins last year. I mean, they're supposed to take a somewhat of a jump this year, right? But the team I have at 10, I just think is better, veteran seasoned, and can just win more games when it matters. The Houston Rockets are still a young team. Jalen Green had the second half of the season, he went absolutely berserk, started getting in his bag. Are we going to see the same consistent production from him? Is Amen Thompson going to be able to hit the three-point shot? Now you have Reed Shepard, who's talked about in the Rookie of the Year conversations. This team is just so very young, and I'm just not sure if it's going to, not all production is linear, right? So I don't know if they're going to continue to get better. Maybe this is a bit of a down year. You're trying to figure out who's really the guys of the future. So for that reason, I have them at 11. And with that being said, give me your number 10 seed in the Western Conference.
My number 10 seed is the Golden State Warriors. Listen,
Crazy.
one name that you left off your list, right? This is one of my favorite players in the NBA. Moses Moody, baby. Moses Moody. No. Moses Moody. Moses Moody has looked absolutely impeccable this preseason. He has looked amazing. He is going to make that jump. The question is, right? A lot of people are asking what's holding this Warriors team back. Steve Kerr. To me, it's Steve Kerr. It's Steve Kerr. The rotations are absolutely horrid. The dude looks like he's, trying to science experiment and stuff like that. He's got guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, who Moses Moody led the team in scoring in the preseason. And he looked absolutely lights out. The only game that he started, he dropped 24 points in, I believe, 28 minutes. And he's looked absolutely amazing. The Warriors, I think the only thing that holds back this Warriors team from making the playoffs is going to be Steve Kerr. And I feel like he has they're saying they're having problems because they think a lot of guys are, rotation worthy. And I'm going to say it right now. The only reason they have that problem is because they have a ton of people who are mid, bro. they don't have like those guys on the roster where like, oh, these guys are G League guys. These guys are not going to play. They're not going to be in the rotation. They just have a lot of guys that are just mid. Pods, like, he was great last year. He had a lot of flashes this preseason. He just did not look great. He was forcing up a lot of shots. He had a lot of turnovers. Andrew Wiggins, they're going to start him. They're going to try to get him playing time. But man, he has looked absolutely horrible too. He looked horrible last season, and they still chose to play him. But we'll see who they start at center. Hopefully, it's Trace Jackson Davis. That dude's an absolute dog. The rotation, obviously, they have Draymond Green, and aging Draymond Green, which, I mean, he's still been playing solid. They've got Steph Curry, right? Who, to be honest, he didn't look amazing in the preseason. Obviously, he still made a couple of flashy threes here and there. He is getting a little older, so we will see how, this, I feel like this will be a defining season for him. If the lineup is not Curry, Moses Moody, um, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and Trace Jackson Davis, I don't think this team makes the top 10, but I really feel like the only thing holding back the Warriors is Steve Kerr. So I have them at my number 10.
Okay, so I just made a last minute realization. So my number 10 and 11 are actually switching. My original 10 was going to be the Los Angeles Clippers. I thought even with Kawhi Leonard struggling to be on the court, they were still going to be able to win enough games with Norman Powell, Terrence Mann. You still have Zubac, who's a solid big, and James Harden as well. Obviously, hopefully they can win enough games. And with Tyronn Lue, I trust them to win some games even without Kawhi. But now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, you have the Houston Rockets who are just hungry, who are a young team. You're not really paying anybody too much. Nobody there has serious injury problems, and this team can just definitely take a jump. They have a great head coach, and so I'm moving them up. The Houston Rockets are my new 10 seed. The Clippers
There
again
we
just
go.
don't trust Kawhi Leonard and his health, how much he's
Also,
gonna
the
play.
Paul George injury too. We'll see when he comes back, but yeah.
Exactly, 100%. But I got the Houston Rockets here. I had to reconsider that. I had to think about it, and Reed Shepard was like coming off the bench. Reed Shepard, I love it. Right, Jalen Green. Hopefully, he has a comeback year. I'm huge on the Thompson brothers and the twins in general. So I think he's gonna have a. And he's obviously was the better of the twins this year, who played really, really good as a point guard, an absolute elite defender. Dylan Brooks. Hopefully, maybe he can start shooting the three ball. Fred VanVleet was solid last year. Alfred
Mhm.
Şengün coming off injury. We'll see how that goes. That'll be a big piece. But obviously, they went on that winning streak without Şengün in the season. So with that being said, I have the Houston Rockets at 10.
Nice. All right. My number 9 is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers, and LeBron James. I think the team is really solid. Any team that's going to have LeBron on it is going to be solid, right? Anthony Davis looked absolutely dominant in the preseason. He
Four
was just
threes.
babying people. Yeah. Even against other starters, like he was just dominant. He was carrying that offense, and he obviously was playing the great defense that he was playing. I feel like the big addition though, Dalton. I don't know how to say his last name.
Connect.
Connect or Dalton.
Connect four,
Connect. Yeah.
baby.
He was playing pretty well in the preseason. Austin Reeves, obviously dog too. D'Angelo Russell, absolute dog. Jared Vanderbilt too. He's a dog as well. So it's going to be. I feel like the season's going to be defined by those complement pieces. It's not going to be defined by LeBron James and Anthony Davis because we know that they cannot do it by themselves. Whether you like it or not, those complement pieces have to hit their shots and they have to step up. And I feel like they have enough complement pieces to where, with Rui, I don't know if Rui's starting or coming off the bench. They've got Austin Reeves, right? They've got Cam Reddish. They've got D'Angelo Russell. They've got Jared Vanderbilt. They've got Jackson Hayes, who I think is a little underrated. And then even like a young guy like Max Christie, who can, contribute
Love
off the
Max
bench as
Christie.
well. And then Dalton, who, was their first round pick, and he's been playing really well. I feel like they finally have a young, good set of complementary pieces where every single guy, they have different skill sets. They have different things that are going to work well with LeBron and Anthony Davis. So I think they make the playoffs. I think they get to that 9 seed. And depending on how good those complement pieces, maybe they even do better than that.
Yeah, and I'm with you. On paper, at this current moment, we know what this team is. It's a playing team, right? At best, you could maybe slide in at the 6th seed. Not have to go through the playing stuff. But the top of the West is just so dominant, especially the 6th seed teams. There's just so much talent there, right? But I'm with you. The Lakers at 9 for me. Again, we're just questioning what we get. Do we get a bounce back here from Austin Reeves? D'Angelo Russell. Can we rely on him in the playoffs? We know in the regular season he's going to be great. He's going to be there. With JJ Redick, some of the points of emphasis is here. is attacking the offensive glass. Max Christie, Rui Hachimura shooting more threes, attacking the glass, right? So these little things, how much of a difference does it really make for us? Dalton Connect, can he be an immediate impact off the bench? Can he have that type of production? Can he shoot lights out from three? Again, I don't want to, rush him as a rookie in Los Angeles, one of the biggest franchises in basketball, right? But playing alongside one of the greatest players of all time, there's a lot of pressure there. So I don't want to rush him or judge him off of a slow start to a rookie season possibly. But there's a lot of unknowns. Vanderbilt not going to be ready for the start of the season. Rui Hachimura, can we rely on him to shoot the three? Can we rely on him to be better defensively? Using that size to attack the glass, which is something he doesn't do a great job of doing. JJ Redick has talked about wanting this whole team to shoot more threes. Anthony Davis, if he can go out here in the regular season, shoot league average 4 threes a game, I am all for it. Listen, AD shooting threes makes me happy, makes me smile because so many times he doesn't want to take them, right? But again, too many unknowns right now. I know we're still one move away from really jumping in my mind of how good we can be, but what moves are out there that's going to make me move the needle? I'm not sure, right? So with that being said, I got the Lakers at 9. Number 8.
Number 8, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. I feel like they're one of those teams every year that are pretty pesky. This year, obviously, they're going to have a whole year of Zion on the team. They're going to have, Brandon Ingram, who's, kind of their primary scorer. He's the guy who's leading the team in points per game alongside Zion. But he's one of those guys that can isolate. He can handle the ball as well at 6'8". And he played really well in the preseason. But the main stories for me, obviously, are two guys that I think that are going to make a huge step this year. Jordan Hawkins, who, had a couple of games last year where he dropped 30 points. He made like 7 or 8 threes in one game or whatever. But Jordan Hawkins has been averaging almost 18 to 20 points in the preseason, which has been really great. He's been shooting it lights out coming off the bench. And then Trey Murphy, too. Trey Murphy's an absolute dog. I think he's going to take a huge step this year. They have a lot of great complementary pieces, right? They have one of the best defenders in the whole NBA and Herb Jones. They've got Jose Alvarado, who's another one of those great 3-and-D guards. And I think they just have a lot of great complementary pieces that are going to be able to mesh well. And I haven't even mentioned CJ McCollum yet, who's, one of those guys that can also drop 20 to 30 a game, too. So they have a lot of guys. Oh, and also DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray's on this team too now. So I completely forgot about DeJounte Murray. So yeah, that's one of the huge things. They have a very good mesh of guards. They're going to be absolutely pesky on defense with DeJounte, who's a great defensive point guard. Herb Jones, who's an absolute menace on the block, and Jose Alvarado too, with Zion down low, and Brandon Ingram too to facilitate. It's going to be a great team to watch. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, and I 100% agree, but I have the Memphis Grizzlies at 8. Right? Listen, just a lot of unknowns with this team. Can Zach Edey be a reasonable, starting big in the NBA? Can his game translate? Typically those 4-year guys coming out of college that dominate in college don't, come into the NBA and produce. Obviously he's looked great in the preseason with his little hook shot that he's got that I absolutely love to see. Bring back that hook shot that he's got. But there's just too many unknowns. Desmond Baines coming off an injury last year, he was banged up. Marcus Smart alongside John Morant, how does that work? Those are two non-shooters really that are going to be in there. Yes, Marcus Smart's great defensively, but how does that all fit together? But now you have, Desmond Bain not having to be the primary scorer. You have Jaren Jackson who's able to go back to playing the 4 and roam around the paint, which is when he won his defensive player of the year. So there's a lot of good pieces. And Gregory Jackson last year who has some flashes. Who else? I'm missing one more. There's somebody else, but I can't remember, but it's okay. But they just have a lot of young pieces who stepped up last year. So I think they're going to be a good team. John Morant missing all this time and everybody just missing a lot of time with injury. I'm not sure how quickly they can get it all together because last time they were top of the West was not this deep. You didn't have a healthy Zion. You didn't have, all these teams. You didn't have Kevin Durant playing for the Phoenix Suns. So there was a lot of unknowns for this team going forward. For that reason, I got them at 8. Number 7.
Okay, number 7, I've got the Sacramento Kings. I feel like this Kings team is going to be pretty decent this year. With the addition of DeMar, right? It's going to It's going to be a cool dynamic. I feel like in the preseason, they were just meshing really, really well together. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox, going to see a full season of him. Keon Ellis has kind of been stepping up a little bit in the preseason. Demonis Sabonis, who I think, in my mind, is like a top three, top four center in the NBA. I feel like he's
Hands down.
extremely underrated. And yeah, and I just think it's kind of the situation that he's in. He's in Sacramento. They don't usually get that much love. Even though they're one of the better teams in the NBA, they're still just not one of those huge market teams like in LA or one of those big areas. They're in Sacramento. So with De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Herter, with DeMar, with Keon Ellis, with Demonis Sabonis, Keegan Murray, who's been an absolute dog, and obviously the sixth man of the year, and Malik Monk. They have a pretty decent roster here. The thing is they finally found Sabonis was that guy on any given night. They had De'Aaron Fox as that main guy who was scoring a lot of points, and then it was nice because Malik could come off the bench and score a decent amount of points. Now they brought in a superstar next to De'Aaron Fox, so they've got two main guys who can score right in the starting rotation instead of just Sabonis, trying to force some points in there, and then De'Aaron Fox, scoring a lot. They also have DeMar now, who's an absolute merchant from mid range. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this team. Yeah, and yeah, I think they're going to be pretty decent. I have them at my number 7.
Yeah, and then again, I have them at 7 as well. DeMar DeRozan is a floor raiser, right? Not a ceiling
Mhm.
raiser, but he's going to win you some more games in the regular season. Somebody else who can consistently, take the pressure off De'Aaron Fox of having to constantly go out there and score. And I think Sabonis is best when he's scoring around 19 to 18 points per game because he can do a lot of other stuff. When he starts having to force stuff up, and he's gonna try to force himself to get some buckets late in games. I just think that's not truly what he is, how he plays best, right? But the big question for me is, can Demar play off ball, which is something he hasn't done in his career a lot of, right? I think the last time he did it was in San Antonio or his last year in Toronto. But again,
Mhm.
I think one of the biggest pieces for me going up this upcoming season is going to be Keegan Murray. Had a down year shooting the three ball this year, but great defender. I expect him to have a bounce back 3-point shooting year this year, and then you pair that alongside DeMar DeRozan, and I love this for this team for Sacramento. Number 6.
Number 6, I'm actually bullish on this team. I have the Memphis Grizzlies at number 6. I feel like John Morant back. The only negative I think on this team, right, is going to be the chemistry. Obviously, they haven't played together. They're also missing GG Jackson too, who's an absolute stud who broke his foot during I don't know what he was doing, but he broke his foot in the offseason doing something. But I feel like they've got the pieces here, right? They have their two big men are going to be Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey. And that's going to be an absolute menace of two big men. They're playing defense for them. Obviously, defensive player of the year in Jaren Jackson, and then they have a guy who's over 7 feet, 7'4" on the floor too. They're gonna have John Morant, who in his prime before he got suspended and he got hurt and everything, was an MVP candidate. He was one of those guys that could almost he was almost he was scoring like 28 to 30 a game with 6 and 7, and I feel like the great part about this team now is that they have two great scorers in Desmond Bain and John Morant. They have those two big defensive pieces in Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey, right? They're big. There's just Jaren Jackson's almost 7 foot. He's like 6'10, 6'11, right? They have Desmond Bain. They have another guy, Santi Aldama, who's also 6'11", who plays the 4, who's also been really well. He's a great power forward that can score the ball. Santi Aldama, he's been stepping up. Brandon Clark is also back from injury. He's been playing really, really well. Their bigs on their roster are just absolutely stacked. A couple of other key contributors too. They have Luke Kennard, who's an absolute sharpshooter on the floor. They've got that guy. They've got that role player on their team. They have Marcus Smart, obviously, who brings that defensive prowess to the team. They've got a couple of guys coming off the bench in Scottie Pippen Jr., who I felt like should have won Summer League MVP. And then they have Jake LaRavia, who's also been playing out of his mind pretty well as well, who's only like 21, 22 years old. So I feel like, and they also have Vince Williams too, who played pretty decent last year and just garbage minutes. And when the team didn't really have anyone and they were kind of just like throwing out all the youngsters out there. So I feel like they have the names. It's going to be all about chemistry at the end of the day. We'll see how this team plays together. They honestly didn't play their starters and everyone in the preseason as much as I would have want to see. It was a lot of just mixing and matching, and some guys weren't playing this day, some guys were playing this day. So we'll see. I feel like they'll start out maybe a little slow, maybe go 500, and then like towards the end of the season they might pick it up. And I think they go on a win streak, and I think they're going to be one of those teams that are going to shock a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's little high for my liking because fuck the Grizzlies, but it's okay. But for my number six, I got the New Orleans Pelicans. For all the reasons you said as well. There's just a lot of talent here. You have C.J. McCollum, the addition of Dejounte Murray, and I like that they finally get a true point guard who hopefully can buy back into defense. As good as he was in San Antonio, obviously playing alongside Trey Young and that Atlanta, the no defense, all offense mentality can kind of hurt him. So hopefully he gets back to that defensive minded role. And I think he plays better when he is the number one like facilitator. And Zion Williamson can also play make as well. We've seen how dominant he can be. And the question is with him is health. You did lose Valanciunas this upcoming offseason. Daniel Theis will be your starting center. You've heard some talks about Zion being small ball five. You still have Brandon Ingram, who's going to be able to get you buckets. But for me, the key additions to this team, as well as you discussed before, Jordan Hawkins. His great 3-and-D presence. Can he take another step forward, be a better player off the bench, and then also with Herb Jones and uh, not Trey Lance. Why am I Tyler? Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy. Right, Herbert Jones and Trey Murphy. Can they, take another step offensively? We already know they're great elite defenders, but they kind of get bullied when it comes to bigger forwards. Specifically Trey Murphy. Like every time he gets paired up against LeBron, he just gets, he has no chance just because he's truly too small, too skinny. So, that worries me a little bit for him specifically. But again, this team's great defensively. You added on offense, was what you needed. So I got them at six. Number five.
Sweet. Number five, I have the Phoenix Suns at number five.
Me too.
Yeah, listen, I mean, the roster, right? You've got three main superstars in Kevin Durant, obviously, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, right? But I feel like the problem with this team is just, I mean, age, for one, is getting there a little bit with KD and Bradley Beal, but the chemistry, man. I mean, like when this team kind of like set out right to come together and they had first set out and like they haven't been too healthy, they haven't been actually like playing together for much. But I feel like when they were actually playing together, they didn't play as great as I, figured. But I feel like it's just because they have three of those guys that are volume scorers. They're those guys that they're going to score a lot of points and they kind of need the ball in their hand, kind of like a similar to like the Westbrook, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony kind of situation. Bradley Beal's one of those high volume guys. He's not one of the guys that's going to bring the ball down the court and dribble a lot and like a Kyrie. He's not that guy. He's one of those guys that can take jump shots in the corner. He can come off screens, off ball screens, things like that. Maybe he can back down in the post, hit a little floater, something like that. Devin Booker is one of those guys where he's a main facilitator. He can kind of do it all. Same thing with Kevin Durant. He can come up, facilitate the ball, dribble it down the court. But I mean, Devin Booker's a guy who can average 30. KD's probably a guy who can also average 30. And same thing with Bradley Beal. He can average 25 to 27 to 28. So having those three guys on the floor at the same time, it's going to be hard to figure it out. They have Yusuf Nurkic as their big. I feel like they don't really have that many great complementary pieces. Obviously, they have Grayson Allen too, but I feel like they just don't have that many complementary pieces to be able to be one of those teams where it's like the Nuggets. They just having these huge names on your team does not always mean you're going to be a great team. For a lot of teams, right, that are really good in the West, they have maybe one superstar, maybe two superstars ish, but a lot of very, very good role players who fit a role and they just play it so well. And I feel like they have three guys who are the main like scorers, main facilitators. They don't have one of those guys who's like a 3-and-D guy. Maybe that's like their Grayson Allen, but they don't have one of those guys that's going to come off the bench and play really well. They have their three main guys, and I feel like the identity of that team is their three main guys. So I have them at number five. I feel like obviously their three main guys can get them to at least the 5 seed. I think they're going to be a great team. I just don't see them. They're just not as deep as I would like.
Yeah, any team with Devin Booker and KD is gonna win some games strictly off their
Mm-hmm.
ability to score and get buckets, right? And some of the best to do it in the league right now. Obviously, KD probably arguably one of the greatest scorers ever. Grayson Allen, I do like. They extended him this offseason. He plays a big role. I heard talks that he won't be in the starting lineup. He'll be coming off the bench, which is something interesting to look forward to. And then Tyus Jones is somebody who they picked up this offseason for a league minimum, which I think is
Yes,
good
forgot about
to finally have a
that.
true point guard who can solo goal is to facilitate the ball and allow Devin Booker to kind of go back to just being a true pure scorer, when on those moments when Tyus Jones is on the floor. So again, the question is to me, can Bradley Beal find a valuable role on this team? because you're making $50 million or more. I think you're one of the highest paid players in the league with that contract you got from Washington. So you have to be able to give some production, and it can't just be you guys are just taking turn ISOing the ball and doing all this other stuff, right? Like buy into defense, buy into playing off the ball, buy into shooting the three, or find a way to make yourself or come off the bench. Come off the bench and be sixth man of the year. Like there are ways for you to make some importance to this team, but I don't know if all three of them starting. I think the ceiling for them with what we saw last year is the 4-5 seed, 4-5 seed. I don't expect them to win more games than they did last year, but again, when you have Katie and Devin Booker, you're gonna win games regardless.
Exactly. Agree
Before,
with you. Did you also have them at
yes, number 5. That was my 5.
Okay. So number 4, I have the Dallas Mavericks at number 4. And yeah, I feel like the top 4 is where it kind of gets like pick and choose. I feel like the top 4 can kind of, swing any way in the West. I feel like for Dallas, I think this is going to be Luka's year. Last year, I mean, you could say last year, he had a case for MVP too. But I feel like this year, it's going to be Luka's year. They're going to get a whole year with Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. But they also, they added Klay Thompson, who, to be honest, has not has not looked very great in the preseason at all whatsoever. But we'll see. I mean, he's not going to have to be. He's not going to have to be, a top 2 scorer on this team, though, like he was at Golden State, right? He was obviously the number 2 guy at Golden State behind Curry when he was there. He's going to be the number 3 guy, maybe even 4, because it's going to be, Doncic, Kyrie. I feel like Doncic and Kyrie during the playoffs, they finally kind of figured it out. At first it wasn't really meshing too well, but I feel like they're kind of, finally figuring it out. They have Daniel Gafford, right? They have Derek Lively, who I feel like took a step in the preseason and I think is going to continue to take great steps. They have Markieff Morris, who's a good, guy off the bench that's going to get you some decent, playing time, and PJ Washington, who, went absolutely absurd in the postseason against us. Same thing with Marquise Chris, I guess. And yeah, and they have Spencer Dinwiddie, who's also another guy who's going to be great, and Jaden Hardy too, stepping up a bit as well, and Maxi Kleber, who's finally back, who was kind of hurt during the postseason last year. But I think like this team, they have their 2 main stars, and then a lot of really great role players who are going to play really well, and they're going to be they're going to be in their own. So I have the Mavericks at 4.
And then I have the Minnesota Timberwolves at 4. Again, you traded away Cat, you brought in Julius Randle. How does that mesh together? Like, are we going to see Julius Randle play off the ball? Are we going to see him, being more of a player to play around Anthony Edwards' game, right? Because obviously we know Anthony Edwards is the superstar of the team. He is the face of the franchise, right? So for me, it's about getting Julius Randle to how can we get this whole team to work together, right? Dante DiVincenzo is going to be a great role piece. Jaden McDaniels, can we have a better offensive jump? And to me, that's just an unknown. Obviously, we know what he gives you defensively, and we know what this team can give you defensively. But to me, I'm not sure without Cat how I feel about the offense. I know the offense to me is going to take a bit of a dip, but again, they'll be great defensively. Julius Randle can crash the board, get you rebounds, he can play defense. He can still score. It's just going to interrupt a little bit with Anthony Edwards and the way he plays. So I'm looking for them to find a way to mesh together, and we'll see how that goes. But for that reason, I do have them at 4.
Sweet. All right.
3.
Number 3, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves at my number 3 spot. I feel like obviously Anthony Edwards is going to be Anthony Edwards. I feel like the Cat trade, I don't think it was a great trade for Minnesota, but I think the big thing is they brought in 2 for 1. Dante DiVincenzo is going to be he's going to be a pretty good role guy. And I feel like, it was great last year when they had Cat and Anthony Davis on the team, right? They had 2, guys that could score, guys that were really well. They got kind of a downgrade to Cat, but they also got a really good role player in Dante DiVincenzo. Beside Julius Randle, they also got Rob Dillingham, right? They've got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who played a lot of very valuable minutes off the bench. They've got Gobert still, who's going to be, he's going to play in that true center role. Cat's obviously going back to center in the for New York and the Knicks. I feel like Jaden McDaniels, he obviously needs to make the step up. He's a great defender. We'll see. But the main X factor here on this team, I think, is going to be Naz Reid for them. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NBA. He's an absolute dog. We will see if he starts. I don't think he's going to start. He's going to be coming off the bench. He's going to be their sixth man. I feel like he's an absolute dog. They have a lot of guys who are going to fit some roles. We'll see how Julius Randle fits in with the team. They obviously him. Dante DiVincenzo did get some minutes. Julius Randle did not get too much time in the preseason. They're gonna have to mesh. They might start off a little slow, but kind of excited for them. I have them over the uh, Dallas Mavericks and in the 3 spot for me.
Yeah, kudos. My number three is going to be Denver here. And obviously, you have the greatest basketball player in the world in Nikola Jokic. There's nobody really can stop him. But the question is not him or Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. It's who's going to, or even Aaron Gordon. Those big four are going to be the big four. They're going to give you production. They're going to help you win games. But the question to me is, you lost KCP. Who are we trusting to give some sort of bench minutes, right, or bench production? Because last year in the playoffs specifically, the bench production when Jokic was off the court was the biggest red flag, which is what helped them struggle and which lost them a couple games when they should have won, right? So to me is who's going to step up and make these plays. Again, Nikola Jokic is going to get you wins regardless because he's just that damn good. Jamal Murray and them and MPJ are complementary to what he does. Aaron Gordon, you already know they have a great relationship, and the way just is always on that backdoor cut. And a great defender he is, right? So for that reason, I have Denver being the 3 seed. I just don't know what else I'm getting out of the big four. And that just to me is not something I'm looking forward to. Number
At number
two.
2, I have the Denver Nuggets. And I the reason why I'm high on this team, right? The addition of Russell Westbrook. Obviously, a lot of people pray on my man's downfall,
I said, I'm
but
sorry, bro, but it's not happening.
Russell Westbrook
Not
is
happening.
personally my hero, and he's going to revamp his career. Maybe even win, six man of the year. Who knows? But I'm
That
just
is
kidding.
not. I was gonna say, come on. I was gonna say,
anyways, anyways,
Cousin.
anyways. I feel like Christian, they're going to have a few young guys who I think are just going to step up and they're going to play a lot better in this rotation, right? One of the main names for me is going to be Christian Braun. He got a lot of preseason playing time. Another guy too who I think is a little underrated, who played really well against the Thunder when I saw the Nuggets, play the Thunder last year, is Peyton Watson, another guy who played really well off the bench from UCLA. They've got obviously Jokic, they've got Jamal Murray. I feel like Russell Westbrook, even though he's past his prime, yeah, but he was dishing the ball in the preseason. He was averaging 7 to 8 to 9 assists, right? And I mean, if he can come off the bench and right, even if he doesn't score 10 points, right, if he can facilitate and get guys open and pass the ball, then I think they will be okay. I feel like another good piece too that they have is Dario Saric. He's just always been very, very solid. He was solid in OKC when he played there for a little tiny bit. He was solid when he played for the Warriors. I think he's going to be solid for the Denver Nuggets. They also have DeAndre Jordan too, who looked, I mean, he's old now, but he looked okay, with Westbrook and DeAndre Jordan looked very well. If them two are going to come off the bench together, right, I can see them, playing well together and meshing. They had a few nice alley oops, and Westbrook was just playing really good off the pick and roll with DeAndre Jordan. And if you have a guy like Peyton Watson and Christian Braun who can shoot on the wings, right, if they're going 10 deep on this rotation and they're subbing out all their 5 starters at the same time, and they have Westbrook, DeAndre Jordan, Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, and then a guy like Dario Saric, I feel like that's a pretty decent bench. I really do feel like that's a pretty decent bench. And so that's why I have them at the number 2.
Yeah, and for my number two, I have the Dallas Mavericks. And
Here
again,
we go.
I'm with you. I'm with you here. Luka Doncic is going to win MVP this year. I think it's inevitable. There's going to be a bit of voters fatigue when it comes to Nikola Jokic and the way they ended the playoffs last year. Right, he was still the best player leaving the playoffs last year, but I think we're going to look for something different. And I think this team's going to be better. Right, although Klay Thompson has not played like a good version of Klay Thompson in the preseason, I'm not worried too much about him because the team around them is just so good. You get another year of Derek Lively, another year of Kyrie and Luca, that backcourt, right? You get another year of PJ Washington, and then you still have Daniel Gafford, who's absolutely great, getting traded over from Washington. So again, I love this team. Yeah, and hopefully Jaden Hardy, maybe I believe he's still on the Dallas Mavericks, but hopefully he comes up, gives you some bench production here. But again, I just love this team. I think Luka Doncic is going to have a great year, especially because they didn't have the best start to the season, but once they made that pre trade deadline moves and got these new players and the new roster reconstructed it, after that they went on a hot streak and obviously made it to the Western Conference Finals. So that's why I got them at number two. Number
Sweet.
one,
Number one, my
OKC.
Oklahoma City Thunder. Wow,
Was it
man.
ever a
It's crazy.
question?
It's crazy to think. Yeah,
Was
it's
it ever a
crazy to
question?
think, man. I mean, crazy to think that, like, I feel like they're the clear number one for a lot of people. Like, last year they were obviously like, seen as a fringe team, and then Shea just stepping up and all the role pieces kind of just breaking out, including Jalen Williams and us ending as the number one seed in the Western Conference and the youngest in NBA history, which is pretty crazy to me. We have the same exact roster that we had last year, minus Giddy
I was
plus
about to say, yep,
Caruso
yep,
and
yep.
Hartenstein. Yeah, obviously, yeah, plus
Minus
Caruso
Josh
and
Giddey.
Hartenstein. So yeah, there's uh this team's going to be exciting to watch. The main thing, right? The main thing I am very worried about with the Thunder is health. The preseason, right? The last two games there, Jalen Williams kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit. I don't know how long he's going to be out. I don't think I think he's still going to be good for the season opener. Jay Will, who's the center, Jalen Williams, he's been out with injury. Kenrich Williams, another guy who usually comes off the bench, he's hurt as well. Isaiah Hartenstein fractured his hand. He's going to be out until they were saying like end of November, early December ish. So he's going to miss the first quarter of the season, which is pretty big. Like it's pretty big, and it didn't even look like he played the whole game through, and then they figured out that he had a fracture in his hand, which is huge. They looked so good on the floor. Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet on the floor together. It looked amazing. It was so beautiful to watch us be able to get offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds and not letting up offensive rebounds on the team, right? So I mean, going forward to start the season, right? We're not going to have that huge addition in Hartenstein. We're going to have Caruso. I don't know if Caruso is going to start. He's probably going to start because I thought the last preseason game we had Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet starting next to each other, and then Lou
Everybody just
Dort,
sliding
Jay
out.
Will, and SGA. Yeah, and so now with Hartenstein out, I think Caruso will play that three position or four-ish. They also have Jalen Williams play the four-ish too. It's kind of like a small ball lineup with Chet at the five because we can get away with that because Chet's 7 feet tall. Even though we kind of usually slack on the boards a little bit when Chet's there at center, just because he's kind of got a skinny frame. But going forward, man, this team is just they have the role pieces. Sam Presti just absolutely stacked this team. Every single person has a role. Every single person knows their role, right? We have SGA, who's, going to be one of those top MVP guys. I think it's going to be between either him or Luka this year. And I think Luka's going to win it, but he was number 2 last year in the voting. I think Jalen Williams took a huge step last year. I think he's going to take another huge step this year, right? Chet was amazing his rookie year. I think he's going to take another step this year, having a full year of experience. Lou Dort is going to be solid. I mean, he's that 3-and-D guy, who's just going to be solid. Caruso, he's going to give us really much needed perimeter shooting and also just amazing defense. He's one of the top defenders in the NBA. The huge thing too, we have Isaiah Joe coming off the bench, re-signing him and re-signing Aaron Wiggins, who are great rotational players for us. One of the X factors that I want to talk about that not a lot of people talk about is the 21-year-old forward out of France. His name's Ousmane Dieng. He was the number 11 overall pick 3 years ago for the Thunder. They took him with the 11th pick. I don't know if that was part of the Sengun trade because they had originally drafted Sengun and then traded him to the Rockets. But Usman, he did not really have a role with the team last year. He was in the G League. He was kind of one of those two-way players. Still only 21 years old. He was drafted when he was 18. He won G League Finals MVP. The Thunder's G League team won the finals. He won G League MVP. A lot of people are waiting for him to, get minutes and figure it out. Like, just get in the rotation. He's one of those guys where he gets in. He's super young. He's younger than all of our draft picks that we drafted this year, besides Nikola Topic, who's 19, but which is pretty crazy to think of if he was drafted 3 years ago. But he did really well this preseason. Last game, he dropped 12 points, 7 rebounds, had a couple of blocks. He's 6'10". He's a forward. He can dribble too. So he's kind of one of those guys who's, that prototypical hybrid guy who's tall but can also dribble and then shoot and play some good defense. The only thing with him is he's kind of very timid. He's very he'll stand in the corner. He's not one of those guys who's gonna ISO up and dribble and attack the rim. He's gonna take those wide open threes. He's gonna maybe here or there post up and get some points, but he's one of those guys who's kind of scared to isolate and create for himself and things like that. But that'll come with age. He's going to be one of those guys coming off the bench with the injury to Hartenstein and the injury to Jay Will, where we'll figure it out. But another guy too that I'm not even talking about yet is Cason Wallace, who was one of our first round picks last year, who also played pretty well. He's a really good 3-and-D guard as well. So this team, the bench is stacked. Every game out, there's not going to be one guy where I think that is a huge weakness, right, on our team. And once they get Hartenstein, I feel like this team, even if they aren't the number one seed in the West, they are a lot better built for the playoffs this year than they were last year. The two major weaknesses they have in perimeter shooting and then defense when it mattered, besides and rebounding, they addressed it. They got a 7-footer who's thick and he gets rebounds and he's an absolute demon. And then they got Alex Caruso, who solved the perimeter shooting problem and the defense problem outside of SGA, Dort, and Chet.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not gonna continue to say what you just said because I'm with you. I'm here. The whole thing. There's just so many pieces to this team that you are happy to that they're added, that were already on the roster, and now you get another year of them, another year of development. Hopefully they take some sort of jump. Because listen, SGA, or excuse me, J Dub and Chet, they had phenomenal years last year, right? But we can still see them take a bit of a bigger jump. And if you get those guys taking a little bit of a jump, I mean, this team could just be so absolutely scary. Again, Alex Caruso is a winner, right? You bring in somebody like that, he's only going to give you winning effort, winning moves, winning things, winning plays on a basketball court. He's going to give you that hustle. He's going to rebound. He's going to play defense. He could, lightweight facilitators. There's absolutely nobody else on the court, right? And last year, he shot the three very, very well, right? So if you get that version of Alex Caruso, not having to worry about all these other things that he may have to worry about if he was playing in Chicago, he's not gonna have to guard Giannis for a full series. You have other defenders who can take that responsibility, who can help you out, right? And when you just have a team that just is so talented in so many different places. I mean, last year you had what 9 or 10 people shooting above 39% from three. So
Yeah,
it's just
crazy.
yeah, this team is just good. I say it with ease. This is going to be the best team in the Western Conference this year, possibly the best team in the NBA, depending on what happens with Boston. But again, I'm with you here. I think this team's going to be great. SGA is going to have another phenomenal year. I mean, led the NBA in steals last year. I don't know if he finished that way, but for the most of the season, he was leading the NBA in steals.
I believe he
So
did. Yeah.
yeah. So again, this team is just going to be so fun to watch, and I hopefully they can make a deep playoff run this upcoming year because they're just such a fun team to watch.
Another crazy thing too I want to throw out there is the Thunder have 5 first-round picks this year.
I know,
Five
I
first
know,
picks. And they're
ridiculous.
projected as the number one team in the NBA with 5 first-round picks. They have the 76ers pick, the Heat pick, the Clippers first-round pick unprotected, their own first-round pick, and the Jazz's first-round pick, which is absolutely insane. We'll see, depending on how well they do. They're not going to draft 5 people in the first round. They're not
No,
going to. So
no
it
way.
will be exciting at the deadline, right? If they maybe they go and they grab another superstar, right? It's going to be hard though. It's one of those things where it's like I think they'd rather trade those 2025 picks for picks in like 2027 or 2028 and just move
Precisely.
those picks, just delay them for more years rather than mess up the chemistry of the team or feel like they have to go get a big guy because they can't use the draft picks. If I were OKC, I'd keep the picks until after the lottery, figure out where you are, how the season went, right, and then figure it out from there. Maybe they trade back in the draft, they get more draft capital for even like further years to come, right? They have Nikola Topic, who was supposed to be like a top 5 pick, who tore his ACL, so he dropped out of he dropped out of the top picks in the NBA draft, and the Thunder picked him up. He's not going to be playing this year, but he's a teenager, so he's going to be completely fine when he comes back in a year or two. And maybe they're even planning for when SGA, just like in case scenarios, if SGA ever leaves after his max contract, or if they're not going to be able to pay guys like Chet or Jalen, right? If they leave, because at some point they're going to have to pay Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and SGA when his contract ends, right? So that's going to be a huge thing. They're going to be able to supplement those guys, right? And they're going to have draft picks. And Sam Presti literally set up this team so well because they're always going to have a great future now, no matter what, because of just the sheer amount of picks they have. They can move back and keep moving back every single year and still have stuff. They have picks from those Westbrook and Paul George trades going all the way back, going all the way until 2027. So it's gonna be great to watch. Like
Yeah,
Sam Presti isn't. genius,
And I don't know if
massive.
you play 2K, but it's like every time you load it on 2K and you go past year one, the Oklahoma City Thunder just have that Clippers pick and they get the first overall pick every single time. So then it's OKC with Cooper Flag every single time. And
Yeah,
it's so crazy to think about that these guys could possibly end up with Cooper Flag. Like or Ace Bailey or
imagine
AJ, like
exactly.
they could get a premier top lottery pick, top
Which
5,
is
top 3
which
pick
is yeah,
to add to this
exactly.
team, which makes it so crazy because now you got your number one overall pick trying to compete for playing time. Like it's not given, it's not guaranteed. This is just
The
it's so crazy, dude, to think
Thunder
about.
Twitter was going crazy when we heard, first the Paul George injury was huge, right? And then like yesterday or the day before, we see that like, Kawhi Leonard is out indefinitely with a knee injury. And then we're like, well, we have their pick unprotected. So that's going to be definitely interesting to watch. Um, yeah, it's crazy to think about. It's awesome being a Thunder
It's
fan.
awesome being an OKC fan. I'm a Lakers fan. I don't know these last 2 years were the first times we drafted our players since I don't even know when. Like
Yeah.
Jesus, it's been something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with that being said, hopefully you'll enjoy today's episode as that is the end of the video. Again, if you like our content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, turn on post notifications, like, comment, and subscribe. If you like collecting or selling cards, SJ Cards with a Z. All right, Seth's TikTok and Twitter will be in the description below, as it always is. And with that being said, if you like the content, make sure to tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend. And with that being said, we out.